If you're behind on the whole Lindsay Clancy trial, let me catch you up. It was January 2023 in Duxbury, Massachusetts. Lindsay and Patrick Clancy lived in a gorgeous house with their 3 children. These were Cora, Dawson, and Callan. The pair got married back in 2016, and to the outside world, they seemed to have the perfect family unit. But behind the scenes, Lindsay was really struggling. We know this for a fact. She'd given birth to baby Callan 8 months prior and had been really struggling with postpartum. She'd been experiencing depression, anxiety, trouble sleeping, intrusive thoughts, and she'd been taking medication for this. But none of the medication seemed to be working, and things were so bad that in early January 2023, she voluntarily checked herself into a psychiatric hospital. She ended up being discharged 2 days later, despite telling doctors and nurses that she was concerned her antipsychotic medication wasn't working and was making her feel numb. Shortly after her discharge, a series of horrific events would unfold. On the morning of the 24th of January, Lindsay took her 5-year-old Cora to a doctor's appointment for constipation symptoms and then brought her home. Her husband Patrick later headed out, we think at around 5:30ish, give or take. He basically was sent to pick up a prescription for the child and some food for tea as well. When he was at CVS, he called Lindsay, who apparently didn't pick up, but then apparently called him back straight away, and Patrick said that she appeared to be busy. Patrick says that when he returned home at about 6:09 p.m, there was silence. He said he went into the house, noticed blood on the floor and an open window. He also said he found his wife lying on the ground directly below the window outside, face up. And what we do know is that she was found with cuts to her neck and wrists, and he called emergency services. And a real sticking point in this case is that Patrick said that he asked his wife what she'd done, and she told him that she'd tried to unalive herself. He said right after asking her what happened, he asked where are the kids, and she said they were in the basement. Paramedics, when they found Lindsay, said she was only semi-conscious and largely unable to form coherent words. Patrick said he then found the children with exercise bands around their necks, and emergency services testified Patrick shouted out something along the lines of she's killed the effing kids. Heartbreakingly, Cora and Dawson were pronounced dead upon arrival at the hospital, and Callan also passed a few days later. Lindsay, after seemingly falling out of the window, was found to be paralyzed from the waist down, and she was charged with 3 counts of murder and is currently standing trial. So what this trial is effectively trying to do is figure out A, if Lindsay did it, if she is guilty of killing her kids, and if she is actually criminally responsible because of the mental health issues she was suffering with at the time. As it stands, the narrative is that Lindsay confessed, allegedly, but we do all know that false confessions do happen. The prosecution argue that Lindsay planned these murders intentionally. Hopefully that gets you up to speed with just a little summary of the case. Do follow along because I'll be posting way more videos on this case as it unfolds. Why are we hearing the narrative Lindsay Clancy did everything right? My point is, why should she have to do everything right? Stay with me here. I hear a lot of people defending Lindsay Clancy by saying she did everything right. She sought help, she saw psychiatrists, she was taking medication. And I do agree, but it made me think. Why do we feel the need to establish that she was a good patient before we feel comfortable acknowledging she was severely mentally ill? There's something really uncomfortable about the way that we're talking about mental illness. It's almost like there's an invisible checklist and you have to go through that and tick all of the boxes, and then it's like, okay, yes, you're severely mentally ill. You have to ask for help, you have to go to therapy, you have to take medication, you have to tell everybody how bad you feel. But what if somebody doesn't do those things? Does that make their mental health struggles any less real? I have worked as an NHS mental health therapist. I have had patients that miss appointments, do not consistently take their medication, sometimes are even so unwell they don't even realize they are unwell. Does that make their illness any less real? And I think this becomes particularly interesting when we're talking about mothers specifically, because mothers are often unfairly expected to be very high functioning even when they are struggling mentally. You can be exhausted, depressed, falling apart internally, and yet you're still supposed to look after your children consistently. You're still supposed to keep the house running and communicate effectively with doctors about your illness. You're supposed to still make all of the right decisions. We know that on the day that Lindsay's children died, she texted her husband saying, "I didn't cook anything, it's been a long day." She was basically asking him to get takeout food. She had so much on that she didn't have the time to cook food. The implication of the text is that she knows it's on her to do. And when you take into account the context that she'd actually not long before been discharged from a psychiatric hospital. I feel like we all kind of metaphorically sit back and wait for something catastrophic to happen, and then we start asking these questions. It's like, did she do enough to try and get help? And I think that we should be asking, why are we expecting severely mentally ill people to manage their illness perfectly? Now, none of this takes away from the horror of what happened to Lindsay's children. It's definitely kept me up at night. It's absolutely unthinkable. But I do feel like this case is forcing us all to confront something really uncomfortable. Like, mental illness isn't something that should be performed correctly in order for us to then all believe that somebody is suffering.